Since I'm doing all the research in advance, I thought I would go ahead and create a series of videos that'll give you some in-depth details on how I'm going about finding land to homestead. Hello world! Thanks for stopping by my channel today to watch this video. If you haven't seen any of my previous videos, my name is Mickey. I live in the great state of Texas with my dog Buckshot, and I'm on a homestead journey. If you've already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope that you'll consider joining me and Buckshot on our journey to find a homestead and grow our own food and live a self-sustaining life. In several of my previous videos, I've talked about the fact that I don't yet have land to homestead, and so I'm spending a lot of time learning how to grow food from seed, how to maintain land, how to raise bees. I'm studying up on animal husbandry, reading lots of books, and basically just trying to figure out all the skills that I'll need for homesteading. Since I don't have land to homestead, I am obviously taking my time to do all my due diligence and find the right piece of property for me. I had a video a few weeks back that discusses some of my thoughts on buying land for homesteading, but I've thought here recently that there's a lot of people who really don't know how to go about finding land, and since I'm doing all the research in advance, I thought I would go ahead and create a series of videos that'll give you some in-depth details on how I'm going about finding land to homestead. So this will be the first video in the series, and to begin with, it's really important that you sit down and think about what you're going to do with the property. Obviously, I'm talking about homesteading, but homesteading has a lot of different variety. Some people might decide that they would rather market garden and they're trying to make money from their property. Others might be raising children and they're really just looking for a place to have a more self-sustaining life and grow their own food. In my case, it's going to be about being self-sustaining and remaining debt-free. Growing my own food, having a debt-free life that is a life worth living. So why is it so important that you define what it is that you're going to do with this land? Well, basically, all your planning is going to be based on this first piece of information. Again, if you were deciding on market gardening, then you may decide that you need a particular amount of land, a particular size. Maybe 2 acres isn't going to be enough for you to be able to produce as much of the greens or onions or whatever it is that you plan on selling. Maybe your plans are to raise cattle and you're going to need enough grazing land. Maybe you want to have an orchard and you're going to need a lot more room because your fruit trees are going to take up a lot more space than in my case, where I'm just planning on growing my own food and being self-sustaining. Now, this is a work in progress and it can change over time, so I suggest that you write it down. I keep these nice little books that I get from Barnes and Noble, some kind of bookstore, or maybe you've got some stuff that you've been given in the past, these notebooks that you can just jot down notes in. Anything will do, but things can change over time. I've got one here that's just like a little paper, kind of paper document here. This information can change over time, and as you learn new things, you may decide, boy, I can go with less land, or it's really important that I don't have this particular restriction. Imagine that if you intend on having chickens like I do, if you were to buy property that was a parceled out piece of larger land that they intend on building a subdivision in. After a year or two, they decide that you can't have any kind of poultry within your property. That would be a deal killer, right? So really what you intend on doing with the land is going to define size, it's going to define restrictions, it's going to define amenities. Can you live in a different place but have property to grow your food or raise your animals or create your permaculture garden, having property to build a house on may not be something that is really a requirement for you. So again, it's really, really vital that you think about what it is that you want to do with the property right from the very beginning. So start with that day one. Here's my nice little book that I keep everything in. It's a nice leather-bound book here, kind of old school. I love it. But in this, I have all of my notes on everything from buying land, locations, and ideas on how to find free wood chips, make mulch. I have everything. I document everything so that I have it on hand and can refer back to it and make changes when I need to. So keeping a nice little book to document everything in is a great way to go and gives you the opportunity to make changes along the way. Recently, I was reading Joel Salatin's book, You Can Farm, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Start and Succeed in a Farming Enterprise. And he talks about this decision on what you're going to do with the land, and that being so definitive in what land you're going to buy, how much you're going to pay for it, what amenities you need. It's really the start to any journey to homesteading. As I've been really focusing on trying to find land, my decisions on what's required keep changing. I started out thinking I want as much land as possible. I want at least 25 acres. And then it started to conflict so much with remaining debt-free. I thought, man, I don't know that I can do this. Here recently I've been thinking about off-grid living. Obviously, raw land is going to be cheaper than land that already has a house on it and is established and may already have some great fields and gardens and stuff. So, could I live off-grid? What if the property doesn't have a well and I'm going to have to pay to drill a well? How much is that going to cost me? So being debt-free and living a self-sustaining life being the two criteria that are most important to me sets the stage, sets the tone, sets the requirements in a way for what land is right for me. Beyond this, then, I'm going to start looking for land that fits within those requirements. Another requirement I mentioned in my past video was that my parents are getting older and I'm getting older, so I don't want to live too far away from where they are in case I need to come back and help my family, but also I don't want to live too far away from hospitals and medical systems that I might need. Can you imagine living alone on your property and having, say, a chainsaw kickback? You have some severe bleeding and you need to get to a hospital quickly. You need to take these things into account. So this is one of the most critical things to beginning the journey. So for episode 1, I think I'm going to leave it here. I think this is enough information to kind of begin the process. It's so foundational for you to understand what is it that you're going to do on your land. What are the criteria? Write them down. Make sure that you keep a good list. Know that that's going to change over time. For me, it was about being self-sustaining and understanding that I don't need as much land as I thought just to be self-sustaining. And my other major criteria being that I remain debt-free, the size of the property kept dropping. However, the restrictions still remain really important because I do plan to have chickens and I would really like to raise my own pigs for pork, which means that I also need some trees on the property. Pigs don't sweat, so I've got to have enough shade to grow a garden that is going to be able to sustain me in buckshot. really isn't going to take that much land. So I'm down to even looking at just 2 acres being enough property for me to really do what I need to do. But the restrictions, having some trees on the property, having good soil, having some water isn't quite so important. I can get away with either having a well or having city water that would do fine, because for the gardens I plan on rainwater harvesting and using gravity-fed lines, even a small pump if I have to that could be solar to water the gardens. So I can go either way there. So I hope this helps you. I hope that you'll take my advice. Start by sitting down, maybe having a glass of wine or a beer or a root beer, whatever it is that you like to drink. Sit down, talk with your spouse, talk with your family, talk with your kids. If you're by yourself like I am, really dwell on what is it that you want to do, what is it you plan to do with the property. Write that information down and go from there. Again, if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. If you're not, and you're just finding this video on how to find and buy land for homesteading, I hope that you'll consider hitting the subscribe button. Hope that you'll give this video a thumbs up. My channel here is really about entertaining you and having you join us on our journey, so connecting with you is really important to me. Leave me a comment. Maybe stop by sometime and just say hey on the channel. I'd really love to connect with you. So we'll say bye for now, but don't forget, happiness is the new wealth. Say bye, boy. Hello, man. Boy, outstanding, son. Is he not the most amazing dog in the world? I'm so glad he adopted me.